and welcome to Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. I'm Darla Phillips, a host and producer, along with fellow screenwriters Sarah Hopkins and Williams Spindler. Join us as we share our experiences navigating careers in film and television. Add in the twist that we're women of faith, entering into life's second season, and you might find yourself mumbling under your breath. Good luck with that, ladies. Follow along for some guaranteed laughs and some valuable screenwriting and industry perspective. Anyone with a dream will enjoy this podcast video. Hope you join in. And remember, we gotta enjoy the journey. The topic of this episode is rejection and how we deal with it.
So welcome back, everybody, for this next episode of Faith, Final Draft, and the F Word. So we will continue our new tradition of giving our 3 Fs. So I will let you start this time, Darla.
All right. So my faith moment, I was thinking about this before we pressed go. And I know that the writing life can get unbalanced. And sometimes when that happens, I look in my life, I'm like, okay, what's missing from my life? Like, why am I feeling out of whack? And sometimes the simple act of doing a service for somebody else, or doing something special to ground me back in what's most important in life. I mean, the writing is amazing, that's fun, it's a great dream, but truthfully for me, relationships are what it's all about. So one thing that I've really been enjoying lately doing is when I go to Arizona to visit my family. My brother has a handicapped daughter. When she finds out I'm in town, she's always like, Darla, come see me. And so this last time I went, it was so sweet. Her mom gave me a little call. She's like, well, Brenna called us and booted us right out the door. She's like, my Darla's in town. And, but I mean, little moments like that where I feel like I'm doing something special for somebody else who really is in need of something sweet. That always just kind of grounds me and helps me realize, the writing is amazing and it's a great dream, but our relationships are most important. And so Brenna always reminds me of that. And I have always this beautiful time with her. So that's my faith. My final drafts. Yikes. My final
Reset.
Yeah. My final drafts moments. I'm going to go back when I wrote my thriller script that took me, oh my goodness, the first draft I got done in 6 weeks. I was feeling so good about myself. Took a little break, got some notes. Second draft, same thing, whipped out a second draft in about 6 weeks, feeling really good about myself. And then the next set of notes came right before summer, and it was crazy. And I just couldn't get that third draft done until fall. And I feel like the people that were kind of rooting for me to finish it were dropping like flies. I was like, I promise I'm gonna get this done. Anyways, got that done. And third draft done in I don't even know, sometime before Christmas. And so that was I felt like I got that from A to Z. Well, no, not Z. Let's say more like point A to point C. And I guess the frustration is that it still needs work, so I don't know. The frustration is the writing and editing never ends. So anyways, there's my faith, final drafts, and frustration.
Go ahead, Sarah.
So we just had the holiday season. And so faith for me, Christmas is a really special time of year. And I was excited about thinking I was going to have all of this front end stuff of your life stuff. So you're doing Christmas cards and you're doing all this extra stuff that takes time away. And when you had budgeted time to be writing and you're doing these other things that you're like, oh, I could be writing instead of writing Christmas cards, I could be writing in my script. But I had a really, my holiday season, my husband works in healthcare. And so because of COVID, very, very busy schedule. And both my daughters were in school and busy. And so my holiday season, there was a lot of me time. And I got to really lean into writing my Christmas card and thinking about these wonderful people that have been my life and supporters for so long. So that faith piece for me with it being the holiday season was pretty awesome. And then again, the final draft part of is, I was writing still. That final draft that I was writing was my Christmas letter and maybe not a script. But that's okay because I still got it out, and I know we have a lot of family that appreciates those. And it's just another way for them to support you in your writing if you really think about it. So that's kind of my two things. Again, the frustration, the F word of I'm alone, doing some of this stuff. But it was also a gift at the same time. So.
Oh boy. So, the 3 F's for me. So faith being something that I've had to rely on heavily for the last 12 months because I've kind of pivoted my life and my career to go full bore into writing and step away from an almost 20-year career in healthcare to just all cards in on this writing thing. It's now or never, right? So I'm just letting, I'm getting my energy from the journey and keeping forward and keeping in touch with you guys who keep me on this path, but I'm also relying a lot on my faith and on my God to let me know it's okay that this path that I'm on now, I think he's been nudging me for a long time, and I just had to have faith in myself to take that leap and do it. Final drafts. So I've been tasked, I actually had a publisher reach out to me, and I'm ghostwriting a novel for a woman who's also very deeply rooted in her faith, and it's taken the publisher a long time to match her with another faith-based writer. And not very many people out there will touch something like this with a 10-foot pole, and I'm doing it. I'm trying to help someone else on their journey to help tell their story. But also leads me to the final draft of I got to get this done because this publisher's waiting for this piece. And that's kind of the frustration too, that as a self-employed person, you have to hold yourself accountable to your own deadlines and show up when you need to show up and keep those meetings when you schedule those meetings and turn those pages in on time. It's a lot on you because you're it. Yeah. You're the sole soldier in this battle. So, which brings me to our wonderful topic today that, again, nobody wants to touch with a 10-foot pole, which is rejections. And I don't know if this fell into my lap because I've been writing since 2005. This is my 17th year writing, and I'm still getting rejections, and it's just part of the process. And that's the hard part, honestly, is to keep telling myself it's just part of the process because it's so easy to take it personally. So what I want to start with is I had a reflection about this, and it's true. Just because we as writers put something down on paper or we create something in a laptop, it doesn't mean that we're not in the same category as fellow artists, sculptors, painters. We are artists. Yeah. We are creators. We are creating characters. We are creating worlds. We are creating story. And when an artist of any of those, medias gets rejected after they have sculpted a piece, it hurts because we have taken time out of our personal lives. And then when we turn in that piece of work to, a contest, a manager, a producer, somebody who requested it, and then, 6 weeks later we get the thanks but no thanks, it hurts. It's a wounding hurt. And so how do we overcome that? So that's what I want to talk about. How do you carry on as a writer after you've been rejected? So the different avenues of being rejected in this business is you've submitted something to a magazine. They're looking for submissions. So you created a baby, you sent it to such and such magazine, you got your rejection letter. You've sent a query to a literary manager and agent, and you've gotten your rejection from that. You've submitted something to a contest that you thought, man, this is golden. I've gotten feedback from it. I've workshopped it. Everybody says it's ready to go. You send it and you don't even place in the quarterfinals. So how do you bounce back from all of that?
Okay, so we've all had rejection.
Yes.
And I feel like for me, the idea of rejection has kind of changed. I can't explain it. I love when you said what we're doing is, it's like an artist. We are seriously molding and shaping our stories. So I think I've come to this place, and it's probably my own little fairyland of make-believe. Like the story in my mind, if I feel strongly that it's a good story, it just needs reshaping. It just needs remolding. And I think that's what gets me through sometimes. And I laugh because I like I said, maybe I'm kind of in my own fantasy world, but I'll read notes, and of course they're hurtful, and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I suck. This is a horrible story. Then I go back and read them again. It's like, okay, no, that's not what they're saying. It just saying that it needs reshaping or remolding. And so now I always laugh because I think, whoever's giving me notes might be trying to shake me and be like, can we just get rid of her? It's like, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep, if you feel strongly about it, just keep reshaping, remolding, or move on to something different or tweak it. But I do think I take rejection a little bit differently than I did in the beginning. But yeah, there would be those competitions where it would be like a script would be like a top 10 finalist in one competition, and then like in another one it'd be like nothing, crickets. So it is a weird thing. It's what they're looking for, different readers.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So when you do get a rejection, you open up that email and thanks but no thanks. It's like someone is literally stabbing you. Yes. And you kind of have to take a breath and be like, okay, I don't suck as a writer. My material doesn't suck. My story doesn't suck. And I don't suck. But it's hard to you rah-rah yourself after you get that big rejection. But I love the way you look at it, because you look at it as a marketability. Yes. It's not you personally. It's not your story. It's the market. So tell us more about that.
Well, we were talking about this, and maybe this is because I feel like we're all kind of in different places in our writing life. I'm so new into writing. And maybe it's because I've done all of these things that are outside of the norm that I'm like, okay, another not normal thing, weird things are going to happen. Everybody's going to have a different journey and a different story. So for me, and I don't know if some of it is just the resiliency of rejection. I don't know, but I'm kind of like it. Oftentimes, it's not the project. And it's not necessarily you. It's just not now. Mm-hmm. And using all of those things, like a lot of times, like I've gone on pitch meetings with big, huge pitch meetings, and you come out of there and everybody's smiling, everybody's doing the thing, and everybody's doing the song and dance, and then you get the email, and it's like, gee, we love the pitch, we love our energy, we love it, yeah. But not now. We have a competing project, or we have something else that is in the works that's along these lines, or we have another this, we have another that. So much of it is just the business of what the project is and what you're going for. Now that's for like specific projects that you're pitching. Contests are so subjective. It's just like what you're talking about with art. There's amazing artists that literally will die before they ever get any validation that their stuff is good. Mm-hmm. And you have to have that mentality that everything is subjective. Yeah. Your writing voice, and I always tell this to people all the time because I'm a unique individual, as are all of us. Yeah. I'm for somebody. I'm not for everybody, mm-hmm. And you have to look at that in that thing, that it's very much the whole thing. Like if you're pitching a TV show and people are there, as much as the project got you into that room, it's how are you in the room? What is how are you reacting, and how are you reading the room? How are you, navigating the networking that's happened? Can you connect with these people? They're like, I'm going to be working with this person for who knows however many years. Like if we can't get along and have a good rapport in the room, it doesn't matter how awesome that script was. Yeah. But, again, if you're coming on as somebody that's going to be coming into a project for a long period of time, even features, mm-hmm. that a feature project from that final draft that you just spent however long on could be years until it's actually ever in development or goes to somebody or gets financing or whatever. Like that's a long time for somebody to be in the room with you. And now I'm not saying the rejection is always you. Oftentimes it's the project, mm-hmm. And that you're creating that network. Like people are like, they know your name now, you can come, you can circle back. And if they open that door, sometimes I just look at you just go to the next one, yes. To have that open door behind you, it's a gift. So the rejection can be a gift, because maybe what if that project would have gone in that same place? Maybe that wasn't the right studio for that. Maybe that wasn't the right company for that. Maybe that wasn't the right time for that film or that TV show or whatever. So looking at the bigger picture of that, I think is probably how I deal with rejection. Yes, I'm sad that this thing that I just spent all this time on didn't go with this company. But oftentimes you're not going to just pitch once. I mean, there's times you will pitch a project 30 times. You got to be ready as soon as you finish that final draft of the thing that you love for people to say, not for us 30 times in a row. So it's kind of like a thick skin thing, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And like, and marketing. I mean, sometimes I think of, some of these little boutique production companies, they have very small budgets, and so if you come with this, like, you're trying to push this high
budget, high concept, huge,
they might love it. They might be like, this is the best piece of art we've read in 10 years, but we cannot make it. So it doesn't always mean your writing is not good enough.
Or you send a spec script and they don't want that particular script, but they like your voice and they like your writing style. So then they hand you something else saying, what can you do with this?
Exactly.
So they're technically rejecting your work, but they aren't rejecting your work ethic because they like what you can put out. And so you kind of have to come to terms with that too. It's not like, oh, well, my story sucks. Not necessarily. It's just not what they're looking for at that particular time. But you're an awesome writer. So if we gave you this, can you run with it? And then you have to step up to the plate and you have to prove to them, I can run with it.
I can do it.
If it's the right project.
Yeah.
All good stuff.
So some of the, if we want to talk about some of the most embarrassing rejections that we've had or some of the most rewarding ones. So for me, one of the most rewarding rejections that I ever got was for the Imagine Impact competition. So for those of you out there who have never heard of this, Imagine Impact is put on by Imagine Entertainment, which is Brian Glazer's and Ron Howard's production company, and they do this ever so often. So just follow them and find out, if you can submit to them. But anyway, we all submitted to Imagine Impact at one time or another, and I didn't make it. Right?
None of us did.
Yeah.
But I made a cute video. Sorry. I still love my video.
Such a good exercise.
Apply for the opportunity because it is a great exercise for you to really put all of your story out there and all the pieces and stuff. It's a great exercise. So anyway, like 3 months go by or whatever, and I get this email with this, video attached, and I open it up and it's a personalized video of Ron Howard, just him, and he's more or less giving you a video rejection. It's not an email. It's a personal video, and I opened that, and to me it was just like, it's Ron Howard.
Like looking into your soul.
Yeah.
Keep going.
It's him, and he's been one of my idols in this business for a long time. To date myself, I watched Happy Days as a kid, and he was Richie Cunningham and all that stuff. But anyway, what he said in this video was, don't let this rejection get you down. Your story made it this far. I, meaning him, I've been told no many times in my career. Get beyond it. Keep writing. Thank you for writing. We need more people like you. Yes. That was just like so soul affirming for me that here's this guy who makes $1 bazillion and has all these bazillion connections speaking to me directly through the camera saying, keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. There's people that appreciate what you do. And so that was just like, all right. I'm going to keep going. So it just touched me, and then of course I picked up the phone. I'm like, Mom, I got a video from Ron Howard. Ron Howard said I should keep writing. It was Ron Howard. It was Ron Howard. It was Ron Howard. So it was just, thank you, Ron, for being a human being and sending those kinds of rejections. So bless you. So share some of your rejections that really hit home for you.
So. I mean, I guess the most embarrassing one we kind of talked about in the car, and I won't say names, but was when, because when you submit, and it's different. Like when you're submitting a concept to your manager and you're just kind of going back and forth, the typos aren't that devastating. But when you're submitting something, to, I don't know, where they don't know you yet, it's going to be a reflection on what kind of writer you are. Typos are devastating. So if you find one later, it's like, oh my gosh.
You will always find typos.
Yes.
Oh.
You will, but I had this pitch all I had gone over it so many times. I was sure there was no typos, and so I sent it off. Well, I get back like the scathing, like the first note was like, you need to like. It's kind of like, you need to use your spell check. And my heart was like, what did I do? And I go looking through, I'm like, there's nothing I spelt wrong. But it was my title. Part of my title is an uncommon, it wasn't what the reader of my pitch thought it should be. So she thought I had misspelled. And anyways, that was I'm sure I've had more devastating moments than that, but that's the one that always kind of, because when I opened it, it was just such like my heart dropped. Like, I must have 100 typos in here. But just that one, but it was the title, and it wasn't a typo. She just didn't get my title. So that was my embarrassing moment. And I mean, I have some happy ones too, but I don't know, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to take turns?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I mean, obviously it was a great moment when I met our manager and I was able to pitch a couple things, and he was more interested in a different, like my feature, but I'm like, no, I want you to read this comedy I just wrote, this family comedy. And he was like, okay, sure, send it. And then I didn't hear sent it. I'm like, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I'm like, well, okay, it must suck. I don't know. Yeah. But like I don't even know how long it was, 6 to 8 weeks, could have been longer. He sends me a little email. He's like, this is good.
Yeah, almost worse than a rejection when you don't get any response.
I was just going to say that. I feel like, because at least when you get rejected, you know. Yeah. It's the whole like the patience and the waiting and the not knowing. That's why you have to just be like, it could be 2 days, it could be a year. Who knows?
Right.
So and I mean, I guess it goes to the point, just don't give up and keep going, and
always have the next thing. I feel like that's one of the things with rejection. If you have all of your eggs in one project basket, that's a recipe for rejection to hurt really bad. Mm-hmm. Like you have to have other ideas that you're thinking or working on, or other even things in your life, like your family or your volunteering or something like that. Like don't have all of your emotional eggs in one basket in a writing project, because that is a recipe for disaster and emotional heartache. It is. So if you are, and granted, there's seasons where you're really going to be leaning in on one project because you're feeling passionate about it, or the time is right to be writing that, and for sure lean in on that. But always have that next thing in your brain or in your back pocket that you feel excited about, because the thing that's in the basket, more than likely, and you're just going to get rejected at least once.
Yes. And you could just say, so what? I've got more where that came from.
But that's important too, is just to keep moving forward. That, okay, you can deal with the emotions that come with the rejection, grieve, whatever it was.
Yeah, they always say like stages of
grief. Honestly, it's like your book baby died, right? But figure out another way, like you said, reshape it, resurrect it, reconstruct it, re-engineer it, switch the genders, and whatever it is that you think you need to do to beat this
all
sucker.
Of that.
Yes.
Like 4 different scripts.
Yes. And, and let it go again and try again. I have a script that I wrote. It's officially 10 years old now. And it's in, I don't know how many revisions I've made based on notes and based on different feedback that I've had. And it's done well in competitions, and now it's in the to be considered pile at 2 production companies. It's been in one for 11 months.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's very much a long haul for some of this. And you might feel like, well, I haven't heard from them in 11 months, so they must reject. Well, I've been kind of circling back with them every so often, and I always get the same response. Well, it's still being considered, please be patient. So that's exactly what they expect you to do. Be patient.
And can I just say one other thing that came to my mind, because we're kind of doing it here with this video podcast. You don't always have to wait for someone to give you permission to put your story into action. I feel like that's what we're doing here. We're like, hey, we're just gonna document our story. Maybe you could create, I did it with my feature script. I created a short script from it and we produced it. I feel like you don't always have to feel powerless. Like you can be like, okay, if they aren't going to notice me, I will make them notice me, or at least keep myself entertained for a little while. But I mean, there's things we can do besides sit and wait.
We're doing something to promote this
Yeah.
dream, this passion, for
Right.
sure. And sometimes, so like for me, sometimes I get down on myself. I've done 2 fellowships that were huge, but they took a lot of time to do that, and working on projects that, you know, were other people's writing things or whatever. So sometimes it's worth taking the time to really hone your craft. And that's going to come with a lot of rejection. And I guarantee if you get accepted into a fellowship or some kind of writing program or anything like that, lean in and try to learn as much, like fail huge in those things, because you learn so much more. Like if I came into any of those things like, oh, well, you know, I think I have a good grasp. And I did see some people kind of be like, oh, you know, this is just something to put on my resume or whatever. Lean into so many of those. And there's, even if you don't do a fellowship or get accepted into something, there are so many amazing online writing programs, or work with a writing mentor. My biggest rejections, when you were asking like your biggest rejections, you know, to some benign person or some studio exec that I don't necessarily know or have a relationship, I'm like, whatever, no, just get off my back or whatever. I'm like, just not for them. Cool. But the people that I worked with in a writing capacity, like I had an amazing mentor through the WGA program. Man, she put me through the ringer, and it was a struggle for me. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm the worst writer ever. But she was so good at stretching and growing me. But in order to stretch and grow me, she had to completely come back with all of these rejections and all of this stuff to help me figure out my story. Well, what are you really trying to say here? What are you really trying to say here? And oftentimes when you talk about notes, it's like, what's the note behind the note?
Yes.
And that part oftentimes is where you will really understand where the rejection is coming from. So yeah, for sure. Like I feel more personally rejected when it's somebody that I know and respect, and I'm trying to learn from, and I can't deliver what they're looking for. And I'm like, oh, which is working with a manager or a mentor or somebody that's helping you develop something. It can be, that part to me is harder than somebody saying no to a finished project.
Yes.
So
Keep trying, and you go back and forth, and sometimes you hit it and sometimes you don't. And but I was gonna say, when you get that opportunity, because sometimes the competitions, you get notes and that's it, you don't get to respond back. But if you ever get the opportunity to answer notes, it's so important to take criticism with grace. I mean, just be positive, and no, don't get defensive. That's the biggest no.
I mean, initially you can.
Yes,
nobody's
but
listening.
Don't email or talk about it.
or whatever.
They just ripped your heart out, and you're like, "Thank you. These are the best notes ever."
In the corner for a little while, and then I'll come out.
Cry room, cry pillow.
We do need to talk about the cry rooms. Oh man.
But whatever you need to do to have that emotional dump, because you just need to let it out.
Don't let it out on your kids or your husband.
Yeah.
FYI.
Right.
It doesn't go over well. If you want them to support you later on,
That's right.
don't do that on them.
Don't have them.
Because they can't do anything about it. They don't know enough about the industry, not to slight them or anything like that. They just don't know what they don't know. And you are the only one that can contextualize how you're feeling in that moment, because you know the story. And even if they've read it, they don't understand the process.
Right.
So find your people, your tribe that's going to have some context to what that rejection feels like, and don't dump it all on the people that are your biggest fans.
And they will not understand, like you were saying, so they won't understand. And that's why you have to be careful what you dump. Because I noticed even with my husband, who's my biggest cheerleader, if you get too negative about it, they're like, why are you doing this? And you're like, because.
Why am I doing this? You start questioning all the things.
So you have to know that, like you said, they're not going to understand. And very few people are going to understand. We talk about this, finding the tribe. We found each other, people that get why you keep pursuing something when you kind of get stomped down.
This is a business of no's.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really
very
is.
much so.
And if you can't figure out a way to process that or handle that in a healthy way, this is going to be a painful experience for you.
I was doing a workshop with a literary manager, doing a 6-week comedy workshop, right? You had to churn out a piece of script in 6 weeks. And like every 2 weeks, he'd have a meeting with me to give me notes. And just to kind of reassure myself and just to be funny, as soon as he would come on Zoom and be like, okay, I'm putting on my hard hat. Let me have it. Because you kind of just have, just kind of laugh it off. Like, but you want to be honest and say, give it to me. Give it to me straight, because we want the straight answer. Whatever awful crap you want to tell me about my stuff, give it to me. Because that's the only way I'm going to grow, and that's the only way I'm going to learn. And that's why you should let your babies go out into the world to get real notes.
Real. And it is like that. It's like the nice little 3 sentences of nice things, which they're probably like digging, like, what can I say nice? Well, and then like 5 paragraphs of the stuff that I'm like, yeah. So you hang on to those first lines, like, okay, these lines, the good notes are going to get me through the rest of it.
It's also a good sign of somebody that knows how to give good notes. Yes. And that's how you should give notes too. When somebody's coming at you, and you might be like, just give it to me right off the bat. You should always start with what works and the things that you liked about what that was, because it is personal. You're not writing this in a vacuum. So, and I love that about our manager specifically. He's so kind in the way that he gives notes, but he gives really good notes. And I've had a lot of people give really good notes. But when they start off harsh, it's
he's good to be kind at first, but then make you really think about, explain yourself. Figure out where you're going with your story, and our man, I'm gonna just say Cam. He is very kind about that, but I really think part of it is that scared me. Part of it is the because my script consultant that I worked with for a while, I think he purposely would poke at me, like purposely to see how I would, if I could take it, if I was tough enough. And I think sometimes that's what it is, to see, hey, is this person, are they good? Are they tough enough?
People kind of, poke at you.
How's she going to react? Is she going to lose it? Is she going to cry? No. But so I think that's part of this is, like I think Sarah was saying earlier, they kind of want to test out who do they want to work with, and part of that process.
Do you have what it takes to be in this business, to put up with the rejection?
And how you take notes and rejection have a lot to do with, Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, you get a thick skin and a cry room.
So to kind of wrap things up, how do you keep moving forward after a rejection? So, for example, if you have a script that you've sent out to many contests and you've spent a lot of money and you haven't placed at all with any of these contests, then maybe that's a sign that you need to just kind of table that particular script for now, and then just keep moving forward. And why is it important to keep moving forward?
We'll see what else you can come up with, and build your portfolio. You want to have a few things in your pocket, and sometimes it's a sign, not always that the script is bad, but maybe it's just not what the industry is looking for right now, and or maybe I'm speaking to myself too. You, me, all of us, maybe we still need to learn something. If our scripts aren't getting anywhere, like maybe there's something we're missing. We need to just keep honing our skills and keep going forward.
And sometimes when you work on something within one script, especially if you're early on in your writing, you're not gonna learn the lesson that you need to do in that script until you start the next one. And if those rejections stop you from ever writing the next one, you're not going to progress as a writer.
Yes.
And I feel like that's that's the biggest blessing of rejection sometimes. It's like, what are you going to do with it now?
Yeah.
Because you have to internalize it and then you have to decide how you're going to react to it. And then it's your choice on what that action is going to be. Is it going to be to table it and put it in a drawer for a little while because you can't handle any more rejection? You're like, I should just start working on something else.
Yep.
Or are you going to know that the next thing that you're working on, whatever those notes were on the previous thing, it will evolve in how you tell your stories.
Start.
Sense to you little by little. The more you write, the more you watch, the more you read, you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting that. I'm understanding what I maybe didn't do in my first script. And it's kind of like your first script. If it is the first script that's not doing well, it might be, maybe go back and read the first story you ever wrote, and you can be like, oh, no wonder that. I thought that story was great, and it wasn't so great. And sometimes that could be a script too. Your first script might seem like it's amazing at the time. But
if you're getting rejections, especially on an early script, and you just can't figure out why you're not moving forward in it, find yourself a mentor. Find yourself somebody that you can work with, and sometimes even if it's just with the script consultant that you sometimes will pay for, and sometimes you can find another writer that's just a few scripts down the road farther than you are, or find somebody that you can trust, and find somebody that's going to challenge you, because you don't want somebody reading your script, because if you just give it to all the people that love you, they're going to love the script. Look for somebody that's going to challenge you as a writer. And here's the thing, I feel like every script is never done, right?
Exactly. Never.
And so, this is just the next version of it. And if you have to call it rejection in your mind to get to the next version of it, then okay.
And more and more, you hear this all the time. You'll hear this in other podcasts and other motivational, stories. It really does come down to who doesn't. I really think that's don't give up. I mean, maybe give up on that script for a moment, but don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your dream. The dream may not turn out like you dreamt or thought it would be, but there's still so much good that comes from this whole forcing yourself to do something hard and getting better at it.
It's so hard to get rejected. Nobody's like, everybody raise your hand for whoever wants to get rejected.
No one ever.
Exactly. So it's hard to do, but it's worth it. Anything that you're going to put in effort and time, it's worth it. It's worth it if you're learning and growing from it and evolving and loving the process, because it is a process. It's a process of rejection.
Pat yourself on the back for having the courage to send it out.
Hey, thanks for hanging to the end of our discussion on rejection and how we deal. Hopefully we shared a nugget or two to help you along your own bumpy road. Don't give up. For more information on our podcasts and videos, be sure and check out our Facebook page with the same title, Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. We love Mission Viejo. A special thank you to my sister and brother-in-law, Amy and Larry, for graciously hosting us and allowing us to film in their kitchen nook. A sweet thanks to their puppies, Leo and Piglet, too. If you like our videos, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.